Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Rabbi Lauren Werber.
And I'm Rabbi Robert Barr.
We're happy to have Rabbi Barr, our Rabbi Emeritus, with us as we at Beth Adam celebrate Shabbat together. After a few reflections, we'll have a chance to hear from Rabbi Barr about some recent adventures as we enter Shabbat together.
6 days we speak. Tonight we listen.
6 days we build. Tonight we rest.
6 days we take care of others. Tonight we nurture ourselves.
6 days we work to change our world. Tonight we are renewed by what is eternal.
6 days we plan for the future. Tonight we are enveloped in the present.
6 days we eat and drink in haste. Tonight we savor the taste of bread and wine and feel the bond of the world that feeds us.
6 days we teach. Tonight we learn.
6 days we hear the clamor. Tonight we listen for clarity.
6 days we struggle to expand our influence. Tonight we are dissolved in a greater influence.
6 days we focus our vision on the task at hand. Tonight we look beyond what we can see.
May each of us find our Sabbath peace.
Ma yafeh hayom, how lovely is this day, a Sabbath of peace.
Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Night seeps up from the ground. Light falls from the stars, distant, icy, ancient, beyond all who came before. But the light of the Sabbath is warm. The light of the Sabbath is ours. The light of the Sabbath is of this time, of this place, of lives that know the past only in a dream.
As we kindle these lights, we create a place of warmth. As we kindle these lights, we welcome this time for reflection. As we kindle these lights, we stake our claim. And while these lights burn, this time is ours. Would you like to light? Try to be nice.
That's sweet. Well, maybe I should.
Yeah,
How many rabbis does it take to light Shabbat candles? Answer's two.
Blessed is the light within the world. Baruch Or Ba'adam. Blessed is the light within each person. Baruch Or Shabbat. Blessed is the light of Shabbat. This is a reflection written by Rabbi Naomi Levy that is just a little bit adapted. We love to change the world, but we rarely appreciate things as they are. We know how to give, but we don't always know how to receive. We know how to keep busy, but we don't often listen. We look, but we don't often see. We yearn to succeed, but we often forget what is truly important. May Shabbat teach us to slow down. May our resting revive us. May it lead us to wisdom, to holiness, and to peace. May we appreciate Shabbat, the day when eternity utters a day.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. Eternity utters a day. Lie, 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 lie.
We like to have you, Rabbi Bar, back now and then when we can drag you back into the
I
building.
love coming back.
He does love coming
I
back.
do. I wander around aimlessly, not knowing what to do. So being here is always great. It's always great to share Shabbat with you, with Rabbi Werber.
You are always gracious when I ask you to do this and always happy to be back. I'm just giving you a hard time. But we had a really good reason to have you specifically now, and that's because at the end of April, you were, as you often are, at the Conference for Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
Right.
And we thought it was a good chance for a little catching up on what Americans United is doing, why it's so important, and what was happening at the conference. So let's start out. You'll do most of the talking,
Okay.
but with how you're involved. I know you're on the Faith Advisory Council, what that means and why it brought you there.
Okay. So Americans United for Separation of Church and State is an organization devoted to separation of church and state, which is a critical American issue. I mean, it's absolutely essential. It's core. It's something that we devote part of our social justice work here at Congregation Beth Adam, and maintaining that. AU, that's short for Americans United, is a national organization. It's multi-decades old. I cannot remember exactly. I think it was the 50s. It was started to address this issue, and it's continued to evolve and to grow. The president has spoken here. Rachel Lasser has spoken to Congregation Beth Adam as its vice president. Andrew Seidel has spoken here as well. We've actually had some other folks. Yeah, we've had, particularly during COVID, we had Zoom allowed those folks to participate. I'm on what's called the Faith Advisory Council, which is a small group, about 12, I can't know the exact number, I don't remember it, of clergy who do several things. We advise the board, we meet with the board, talk about issues of concern. We are also connectors. So what would happen is sometimes AU brings lawsuits. If something happens in a particular, some of you may remember the coach that was praying with the students in Bremerton. And so AU was getting involved in that. And so they were trying to reach out to clergy there. So sometimes one of us knows clergy in that area that we can direct them to do that. Sometimes some of the clergy on AU actually sign on to a particular lawsuit. So we serve different roles, as well as being advisors and counselors and when questions come up. And it's a range of us. Rabbis, ministers of different Protestant denominations, people of the pagan Wiccan tradition as well. And we talk about issues and reflect on what's happening. AU, so that's how we're involved. And we actually meet quarterly, once in person at the what's called the Summit for Religious Freedom, or SURF is the cute acronym. That was what was in April. And then we meet quarterly online. We chat about these issues. Sometimes we do lobbying. We can talk about that. I actually was lobbying in April while I was there. I've lobbied on other issues at other times where they've asked members of the Faith Advisory Council to come in if we're able to. So that's what. So I really enjoy it. It's a really worthwhile. I also have met with young folks who are trying to organize. They'll have us, the Faith Advisory Council, talk with college students who are interested in being involved in this issue, and we've met with them. We also monthly, I've been doing meetings with clergy who've heard about AU and want to do more with separation of church and state. And so we organize a conversation once a month to help them get engaged and see what they can do.
It's awesome. I didn't know the advisory council did all that, actually.
We're small but mighty.
And I want to underscore for people newer to this who might, if you've been a Beth Adam member and you're watching, you've been a member a while, you know about our involvement. But I want to underscore how this particular issue of separation of church and state gives us a position that's unusual and leverage that's unusual. So as an institution that's seen as a faith institution, in terms of the way our language and our culture perceives synagogues, churches, mosques, right? When religious leaders and their communities can agree on the importance of separation in church and state, we have a louder voice than others by nature of the institution.
Correct. Because what oftentimes happens is those who want to impose religion in America call those who want to keep separation of church and state. They go, oh, you're the anti-religious group. Well, it's really hard to do that when people are rabbis, ministers, members of other faith communities are advocating for separation of church and state. We have power. When I walk in and we're lobbying on the Hill, and I was with some folks and some of the Episcopal priests wear their collars. And when we walk into a congressperson's office or a senator's office, we represent something different. And it's important that they see religious leaders, people of faith, saying we believe in separation of church and state. Know too that at AU, there are also people, and I don't like the terminology of no faith, non-believers. The language isn't good, but people who don't identify with religious tradition. And oftentimes, and this is one of the challenges, is AU brings together people, religious people and non-religious people, to talk about the same issue, and trying to find the balance between that can be interesting. And Beth Adam, and I think I've played a unique role, given that Beth Adam is both a religious place but takes a humanistic perspective. I straddle both lanes, and oftentimes people don't quite know how to talk to me, because religious people oftentimes don't think I'm religious enough, and secular folks think I'm too religious. So it provides some really good opportunities for conversations.
That's what I get asked about. Do I have faith? Am I religious? What I said, it depends who's asking for what they're going to answer, because of exactly that, right?
And it means, I'm sorry.
Yeah, coming from one side, Beth Adam looks like a secular institution, and coming from the other, it looks like a religious institution. And where you and I as the rabbis fall depends on who's looking and from which direction. We don't change, but they do, their perspective.
Right. And what they mean by those words. I mean, I don't. And people ask me certain questions. Are you a person of faith? Do you believe? And I say, what do you mean by faith? I mean, tell me and people say, oh, you're just joking. I say, no, I don't exactly understand what you're asking me. And so, it's trying to figure out what side you're on. What are you looking for? What's that little secret thing that you're trying to get me to reveal about myself? So yeah, it can be really interesting.
But in this church state context, and you said what I was trying to say much better, so thank you. I think the Faith Advisory Council, right? Council, not committee, serves this unique role because it's a place where we understand religious language and can fall within that framework and say, from within this framework, this is what's healthy for our country, and this is what's healthy for religion. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also creates some interesting situations. So there was, some of you may remember that when it was many months ago, when the president was and the Congress was trying to pass this enormous bill that was called the Great Beautiful Bill. I don't think it was beautiful at all. I think it was a horrific bill. But inside that bill, particularly, there was $40 billion for vouchers. And so a lot of groups got together, separation of church and state, because these vouchers are going primarily to folks in religious schools, people who are already in, raises a lot of issues. And there were clergy who were for public education, and those of us who were public education, but also separation of church and state folks. And so we had to negotiate some parts of how we were going to use religion, what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do, which was a very interesting conversation because we intersected on public education being a core, again, American principle, but we diverged on how much religiosity do you bring to the lobbying event. That's where it really came up when we went into offices of representatives. So it's a big, interesting, and that to me is one of the interesting parts of the conversation.
It really is. I think what you're saying is, right, when do we employ language that we may not even usually employ that's religious language? And I don't mean by that God language, I mean the language of how religion functions, right? Or shared religious text, or when do we employ that because it's a language someone else speaks, and when do we not?
Yeah, but this was even different. That was a little bit different. I didn't make it clear. There was actually people who wanted to pray in senators' offices. And I went, no, this is not, that's not the way we should approach it. Because if the congressperson or senator wasn't meeting with us, I just didn't feel. Now, there were some people who did decide to do a prayer circle in the rotunda of I can't remember what building now. It just jumped out of my head. Rayburn, I think it is. And so they did a prayer circle. I and some other ministers some ministers that I was with said, no, I'm not doing that. So finding that.
And this was with Americans United.
Well, it was this big.
This was the largest.
This big education. Americans United. We're pretty clear what we do and do.
I'm surprised, right?
And this year, and I don't. Hopefully you're watching, Tom, because I could go on for like 70.
I'm watching.
Oh, good. I could go on for hours on this. I mean, this has been an issue for me really 40 plus years. The 250th anniversary of our nation's coming up July 4th, right? We're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary. There's all kinds of events going on. And there are groups of people right now really pushing this narrative that America is a Christian nation. And Christian nationalism is a term that we associate with it. There have been always folks who've been pushing Christian nationalism as this sort of newest term that we use. And what they're trying to do is redefine the very narrative of what America is, saying that we are founded as a Christian nation, that we need to be a Christian nation, that our laws emanate from Christian text. And sometimes what they do to try to soften the blow a bit is they'll call it Judeo-Christian, but they always seem to only quote those texts that they like. They don't want to ever include what I would call like Talmudic texts, particularly around the issue of abortion, where in Judaism, abortion is an acceptable idea. It is not verboten, as those who oppose abortion would say. So right now, it's really becoming critical because we keep on we're watching the erosion of separation of church and state, and it's bad for the country. It's bad for religion. The Jewish community absolutely should be engaged in this separation. America was the first country that allowed us to be free and equal citizens. We forget that. We think it's normative today. But when America was founded and rejected being based upon theology, it was such a radical notion. And we need to make sure that doesn't get lost, because by rejecting theology and religion as the basis for our nation, we change the decision-making process. The decision-making process becomes a secular decision-making process, not a religious one. We would engage in, one could bring their religious beliefs to the table, but the decision at the table, I'm talking about the governmental table, should not be made based upon a religion.
And we also know that religion does better when it's separate.
Oh,
so we tend to say to protect the minority religions, but more than that, to protect secular democracy, we have to separate. But the reality is religion in general does better when these two things are separated.
Right, and because this is some of the reason clergy, if government is entwined with religion, then government can walk into the church, if you will, and so or into the synagogue and force certain issues, and so it can affect the internal operations of the organization as well. So it's unhealthy for it, as well as religions often become dependent, if they're governmentally sponsored, on the government to maintain them. They become less creative, less vital. Religion is much more vital when it's in the free market of ideas. We have to compete, and has been it's healthier for religion. The problem is with the folks, the Christian fundamentalists, the Christian nationalists. Their issue is they want to impose their narrow religious beliefs, and I want to make it really clear. This is not Christianity at all. This is a very narrow definition of what Christianity is. There's Christians as an organization, you can look it up, called Christians Against Christian Nationalism. I mean, they're offended by this idea. So what's happening is these Christian nationalists have a very narrow understanding of religion, or a particular understanding of religion. They find those verses, they have a set of ideas that they want to impose, and they want to impose it on everyone. And that's what's scary. Then religion is being used, it's weaponized. It's being used as a sword versus as a shield, and that's what we're seeing. They're trying to flip it to impose their narrow doctrine on everyone, and we're fighting it on so many different levels. We're fighting it on. We can talk about whether we talk about issues around abortion, reproductive health, the LGBT community, prayer in public schools, posting of 10 commandments, public education. All these things are being impacted. Choices around end of life care are being impacted by it, because where they're trying to deny certain rights in that. I was talking to somebody who's been involved in the military. They're trying to change the way chaplaincy is working in the military. So there's a whole raft of issues that are touched by separation of church and state. And sometimes we tend to think of it's the little thing. Oh, what's the big deal about the 10 commandments being posted in a school? But it's this whole larger conversation about what makes America America. And they want that narrative to be, oh, Christianity makes America America, their version of Christianity, not everyone's version. And it's not that. And so separation of church and state has become vital. We lobbied on the Hill.
That was
again.
my next question.
Oh, good. So typically what happens is there are a couple bills that are being debated, and then we did that. One is the Do No Harm Act, which is RFRA, which is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which was an old bill that was done. Was trying to help strengthen the separation of church and state, but over time, people began to use it in a way to impose religion. They flipped it. So there's the Do No Harm Act, which was trying to clean that up. Now, RFRA which is sort of how people quickly refer to it, was a bipartisan bill. Today, these things aren't bipartisan. There is a bill. There is the Free Thought Coalition in the House of Representatives. Some of you may know Representative Huffman, Representative Raskin. They're two of the I think they're the two chairs of it. And the bill is more of it's not a bill. Maybe it's a resolution. I can't remember the technical term. It's about affirming separation of church and state. Oh. And then and they're trying to get people to sponsor it, to say, yes, we believe in America is a country of separation of church and state. And again, there's a voucher bill, and that one's the one I did the least about work with this time, but I can't. And that's an important one. But vouchers are really important, because so much of these vouchers are taking money out of the public education, and I think 97% is going to religious education. And people don't realize they don't have protections in private schools. Even, kids with, if there's disabilities or issues or accommodations, private schools don't have to do that. They can kick the kid out and say, we're not going to do that. So there's a lot of stuff there. So that's what I was doing. I enjoy doing it. I like being in DC. It's a tough place right now. There's a lot of partisanship. There's all kinds of controversy there, but it is where our government is, and we all have a chance to be there and to lobby. And if you've never lobbied, I absolutely encourage people to try that.
You just took away what I was going to say. I was about to say, if you haven't lobbied, you have to lobby. It's an experience you have to have, if you can. I understand not everyone can get there, not everyone. But if you can't get there, then you need the experience of calling your representative's office or emailing your representative's office. Doing what you can to be actually involved in government it's also a little bit of an antidote to the despair a lot of people feel.
And you can do state lobbying. and or city. I mean, this stuff
True.
this stuff is happening. I mean, a lot of issues oftentimes come before school boards about what's being taught in schools.
Very true.
So there's ways to be involved. I mean, lobbying on the Hill is a little bit different because you know, oftentimes you'll see a senator you see on TV. I was walking through back hallway and there was an elevator and I was getting on and there was a senator who I recognized. And I said, I promise I was lobbying. I said, I'll just lobby a little bit on the elevator. She let me on. But it was pretty fun, you know, that conversation where she, and the bill I was lobbying on, she was far supportive of and knew more about the bill than I did. But it is that interesting experience of being there and realizing these are real people. Some are really pleasant and willing to have a conversation. Others are less so. Others
just like the world.
Just like the world. They're absolutely like the world.
So I have more questions about that, but I'm not going to ask them because I said I was watching the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I do want to know if there's anything particular that stood out, and you don't have to answer that one, but you can. And what priorities really came forward for Americans United moving forward?
Those are those are hard questions. I think AU does a lot of defensive work. They bring laws, which is incredibly important, and we need to do that. They're there. They're an incredible resource. If you've never gone to AU's website, Americans United, go to their website. You'll see what's going on. So that's important. They're continuing to do the work. They're trying to raise the issues. Amongst the Faith Advisory Council, we talked a lot about we've lost the narrative. Those who believe in separation of church and state, are really on the defensive. We need to recapture the offense. We need to talk more about the idea of an America where people have freedom of religion and religion isn't imposed upon people, and why that is so strikingly important, and why it has allowed America to flourish and allowed people of all stripes to be able to live here, and ideas to be able to be developed and discussed and determined based upon a secular shared morality versus a narrow religious morality. That to me was a really key part of the conversation. And recognizing too, the fundamentalism of religious stripes is happening around the world. It's not just happening in America. We talked a bit about that. Well, AU is not, that's not their agenda.
Right. That's a great place to end, because the idea of being on the offensive is really talking about also the idea of offering something. It's very optimistic and hopeful. Instead of don't do that, saying, look what we can do and look what we can be, which actually fits in with Shabbat. What do you know about just this vision, this vision, right? This vision of what can be, what's the better thing that's out there. And the work often seems responsive to such negative things. Right. And I like that idea of offering something brighter. So thank you. Thanks for your work. Thanks for talking to us.
Loved it.
Thanks for helping with our service, all the thank yous. And we're going to move a little bit to memory, to remembering the people who made things better for us.
Sure. The cycle of life unfolds. Just as we rejoice in new life, we mourn its final ending. The inevitable death of those whose lives have touched ours. Today, we join voices with others as we say aloud the words which help us to recall those we have lost. We remember the moments we have shared, the laughter and the tears, the beauty and the pain, inevitably as our lives intertwined, as we have touched one another. We've been influenced, changed, enriched by their presence. And so, as we mourn their loss, we celebrate their life. Thus, the cycle continues, their lives forever marking the continued unfolding of our own.
For those we've loved and lost, and for those who have only us to remember, we join, if you know it from home, join us in our memorial. Ein bidei ha'mavet ha'koach la'korma shetamun balev. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears
and our sorrow, we remember. With our courage and our strength, we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears in our sorrow, we remember.
Im demaot beinenu, vet evlenu. Nishmor al zecher ahavenu. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. Zecher tzadik livracha. May the memory of good people bless our days. Turn back to the joy of Shabbat.
As we lift this cup of wine, tribute to life's enchantments, may we find joy and contentment in our human endeavors.
Bruchim hachayim ba'olam. Blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim hachayim ba'adam. Blessed is the life within us. Take this.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Our closing song before our benediction is Na'aseh Shalom. We will make peace in the world. We will make peace for us and all the world. And let us say, Amen.
Na'aseh shalom ba'olam. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Imaru, amen. Na'aseh shalom. Na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al
Wow, that was a quick service. And it's drawing to an end in our final closing words. So it's thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. It was a quick service because he got to do the taco.
Time moves faster when yes, the study of relativity. That's another conversation. Next week. Okay. May we know blessings those who are near, and may we know blessings those who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever we are.
May we know blessings through the day. May we know blessings through the night. May health be for all children. All things soon be right.
May we know blessings in our comings. May we know blessings when we depart. May we live each day with peace and wisdom in each heart.
Ken Yehi Ratzonenu. May it be our will. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.